I'm Times Union education reporter Tia Mitchell, and today Superintendent Ed Pratt-Dannals visited the Times Union newsroom for the first time. Superintendent Pratt-Dannals was appointed to the position in October, and today he just came to meet with Times Union reporters and editors, and he talked about some of his priorities, and we also asked him a few questions. When it comes to schools and education, money is always an issue, and Superintendent Pratt-Dannals spoke today about shortfalls from the state. The state already announced a shortfall in the summer for this year, but recently the state said that schools need to cut their budgets even more because the shortfall is even worse than expected for this year, let alone the next year that starts in July. So he talked just about how budgeting and just addressing all the financial needs of the district is very difficult, especially when you talk about property tax reform and him not knowing exactly how that's going to affect the schools. So we'll now hear a little bit from his response on that.
And it seems like each day the news gets worse. We haven't been told yet how much it is, but the first week of March we're supposed to get another hit mid-year. We got one in August, which is pretty unusual from a revenue estimating standpoint. Usually they've done pretty well in the past, and by no later than May or June, shortly after the legislature meets, usually we have an idea of what our funding is going to be like. We may not like what it is, but it's pretty stable for that year. So the first hit came in late July, and then we're expecting another one in March, which is really different from what we have been told by a lot of leaders up until that point. Now, there's still some discussion as to whether or not the state's going to go into its rainy day fund and at least cushion a fair amount or a lot of that for this year. We certainly hope so, because it's hard this time of year with so much of our money is committed to salaries. And so it's hard at this point in the year to come back and recoup any money. But we are going to have to put some things in place, limiting supplies, equipment, travel, those kinds of things, freezing positions. We basically have been frozen all year other than by exception. We're just going to have to raise that level so it's almost nobody other than a few critical areas. So that in combination with lower sales tax, just because of the downturn in the economy, and then Amendment 1 passing. The first year hit on that is $6 million operating and capital, about 4.5 operating and about 1.5 capital. But the cumulative years is where we're really concerned in that. And again, we hear positive statements from the governor, from some of the leadership in terms of us being held harmless. We just can't see how they're going to do it. So I hope they're right, but at this point we can't plan as if they're being right, because what we've heard is that Medicare is going up. That's a cost that's going to have to be borne by the state. We don't see any new revenue sources being proposed. So it looks like there is some movement to use some short-term, one-time money to bridge the gap this year, and then hope the economy improves the following year.
Be sure to check out the other topics discussed by Superintendent Pratt-Dannals during his meeting with the Florida Times Union editorial board. For Jacksonville.com, I'm Amanda Warfield.